This is Dirshu Mishna Berurah as we continue Hilchos Nesias Kapayim, learning the halachos of Duchening, and we pick it up in Siman Kov Chav Ches, and we're holding in Sif Hey. We'll be learning Sif Hey and part of Sif Vav today. Says the Machaber, Lo Yamru HaKoyanim, Lo Yalu HaKoyanim La Dochen B'Minalim. You don't Dochen wearing shoes? Aval Batei Shu Kayim, socks? Shari, that's allowed. Says the Ramah, V'yish Machrim Imheim Shel Ar. There are those who are machmir if they are made of hide, leather. V'naglu hakel b'ksas me'kayimais. So says the Mishnah Berurah over here, commenting on the footwear that the Kohanim wear b'shas dochening, b'minalim sefkatan tezvav. Why do you not dochen in that? Shema yipasik lo yiritzu g'nayu lo. Maybe it's going to get ripped, and it's g'nay to go up wearing such a shoe. Mitzlates in a love, and the people are going to laugh at him. K'shesandaloi mutares. And then he's going to bend down while his friends are dochening. And people are going to suspect, hey, look at that guy. He's not dochening, he's tying his shoe. He must be pasul. So says someone, wait, slip-on shoes. That's a gavaldig eitzah. L'chayra, then you would have no issue because there's no concern anything could rip and whatnot. Still says the Mishnah Berurah, no way. Deloy plug rabbanon. Says Mishnah Berurah, but we have to be mindful. We're in a shul. So true, you have to take off your shoes, but you don't just leave your shoes lying around all over the place. That's a bizayon. That's a disgrace. You wouldn't do that at your front entranceway of your house. So you put them on the side, you hide them appropriately, so they're not begalui in a shul. You take off your shoes before you wash your hands. Or take them off after you wash your hands if you don't touch it. So that's what most Kohanim, if you watch, they untie their shoes beforehand, because that's when you're touching your shoes, whether the laces themselves are mitame, whether the laces themselves are dirty or not, is a discussion in the Paiskim, but either way, which we learned in the very beginning of Chilik Aleph, but either way, they would untie them and then wash their hands, then take them off, or just take them off without touching the shoes. Then you're allowed to take them off after you wash your hands. Continues Mishnah Berurah, but you're allowed to wear socks. Long shoes, which is near the thigh. Shari, that's allowed. To leg time in the now, because there's no issue in this case. This actually is not really a sock, it's some sort of lace-up situation that sometimes has some straps. We're not afraid you're going to sit down, tie them up. Whatever it is, some tall lace-up type of matziv, one will leave it untied, so there is no concern. Time, and what's the reason? It's considered a shoe. Obviously, this would probably be more like the knickers, so Hasidim wear with the tall socks. That's not involved in Gzeir at all. Says Mishnah Berurah, which the targum on the bottom over here pulls out that it's a magefayim. That you wear, these are some sort of over booties. That's not appropriate. Those as well should not be barefoot. It's not the normal way to walk around is barefoot. Which is what we would call socks. And such is the minhag. Before we start Sif Vav, we take a moment in going back in the Dirshu over here. And the Dirshus point out, here we go. Dirshu note number 23 points out, which are slippers, which you don't go in the shukintit, and going certainly, and also shoes you wear outside. Says the Shutpan Miros and the Ben Ishchai, do not wear them dochen. However, another Amsham Zalmin says, Me'ikr Adin, you're allowed to dochen binali bad, some sort of slip-on slippers, l'lo yishruchem, without any ties, l'dochen, l'daita yapanim Aparim Irais, It's only since it's usher, so it's tied with laces and whatnot. But says the Shal Mezalman, it's really lahachmir, cause the Kali Adas are going to come to be mikal and everything. They don't know the difference, and therefore you should not. Sifkat in note number 24 over here, it says, says Ramosha, he should not dochen. So if you're not, even though we said it's inappropriate to dochen barefoot, why? Because that's not the way you would go in front of Gedolim. But Ramosha says, still, it's not a reason to not dochen. I was once in a shul, they didn't want to let someone dochen because he's wearing very low socks, no-show socks. But l'chayra, it's klar in Ramosha that Eidim Loya, even barefoot. V'ema beged aruch shachufa, if it's Kabbas Ragalovtzi wearing long pants that go all the way down, says the Mishna Berurah regarding tefillah, you're allowed to daven this way, and he adds on, and so too, if this is the normal way to walk around, then it would be okay. And even note number 25 is an interesting one. Says the Dirshu, what about someone's wearing colorful pink and blue and purple and yellow socks that says Ramosha, you're allowed to dochen, and we're not worried about this chadash shel hamizbarchen that what they're going to get so caught up. Hey, look at that koyan's interesting stocks, and therefore you'd be allowed to dochen even wearing them. We continue as we begin Sif Vav. Says the Machaber Afal Pishon Lo Economy Deim Shachre still Chayzev Nali Deim Ad Perik Shulchiber Yad Israel Shawash again for Musaf. And of course, this is in a world that you took it 2 times. For example, in Eretz Yisrael. Sif Katan Yud Tes says the Mishna Berurah, even though they washed their hands. Ikra Netila says the Mishna Berurah. Asmachur Rabban Nakrai. We learn out from a pasuk that says Shenemar Su Yidich Kodesh Baruch Hu Hashem. Kelaimar. What do we learn out from here? Kshatis Su Yidichem Gitjoy Sabet Chila. When you're dochening, you should first wash them. V'hainu Netila V'achach Baruch Hu Berachas Hashem, which is V'berachas Kayhanim. Anatilu Sricha Liyos B'Mayim Dafko, specifically with water. Zlomayel Kehan Midi Dimenaki K'moy B'Tfilos Sim Samach Beis. Sadi Beis here so I can help just to wipe your hands down, like we learned in Elchas Tfilos Dafka Din Koysev Baruch Hu and Din in water. Pasuk Machaber. Excuse me, I said Musaf. Means even if you wash your hands in the morning and now you come to shul before dochening, wash your hands again. Tekra, take if kedusha bracha, you want right before the bracha, you want to wash your hands, mashma, and that is of course the lechat chila. Sivkat el chav chayzim and eilin v'im mayim. And the Nuchel Lisva Chashid, the Rambam, this view lady Yaitz, and tells Yadayim Shalotam Bashachos, Koshal Sichtayt, V'Yadea, Shanagam Makam Netunaf, which of course is difficult. Number one, to know you're not Misiach Das, you walked to shul, drove to shul, and whatnot. Number two, to know that you didn't touch anywhere is not so pashut, but in a scenario like that, you would be allowed to dochen, being semich on the sheet of the Rambam and not dochen again. Now wash your hands again, excuse me. Ada parik till your wrist. Kayin amakadish yadav la'avoida, says the Rambam. Al king koz v'achreinim. Davshet divina dafka netila b'li koyach v'ga b'li. Davshet divina dafka netila mikli. Excuse me, I messed up that word. V'koyach gavra. So we see if we're learning it out from the avoida beis hamikdash, you need to be in the kli poured on, and so doing the action. Shli mashtanim amayim b'riyasan v'yal kopanim revius of mayim. So again, before we're going to stop over here, but let's just look at a few dirshus for a moment. Dirshu note number 26 points out about the maila of washing in proximity to the berachos kayanim. Now the question is, let's say there's someone else davening, and we've learned prior that you're not allowed to walk in front of someone else davening Shemona Esrei. So what does the kayin do? He needs to dochen, he needs to wash his hands, but there's someone davening Shemona Esrei, he can't walk in front of him. Says the Michas Yitzchak, if you go on the side of him, you should wash your hands because of a tzarech mitzvah and it's a shas adchak. Or Letzion points out, if you wash your hands properly in the morning and you're not mizich das, then it is okay. Or Eliashiv Shemizalbin says you're able to even be over lefnei mispal, you're able to walk in front of him to go and wash your hands. You see the importance of washing your hands. What about for dochening purposes? You want to go up for dochening, but there's someone there davening Shemona Esrei. So says the Dirshu of here, quoting from the Michas Yitzchak, would be mutter. Rav Vosner says his mutter af laver lefnei himself mamish, to walk right in front of him. Why? Because again, it is a tzarech mitzvah, and the Chazayin Ish says the same tzarech mitzvah. Therefore, you would be allowed to walk in front of someone else davening Shemona Esrei to go up and dochen. No, finally, note number 27. If you already did it in Shachris, like we said in Eretz Yisrael, says the Makar Chaim, If you didn't leave the shul, then Mikra didn't have to wash your hands again, but the minhag is to wash your hands again. And we'll say on this detail that, first of all, actually, let's just see note number 28. Let's just see a few more, then we'll just talk about Lemaisa, about the Kayanim washing the hands. So to Tishrav Yom Kippurim, you wash your hands until the knuckles. Excuse me, out of parak I said wrist, it means until the knuckles. Nitila, I think. Could be I'm making a mistake. We have to check that one. I apologize. And then we said, note number 29, we're talking about washing with a kli, and by someone pouring it on, that says Dirshu number 29, we're not mentioning that there's no chatzitzas over here, so it sounds like you don't have to be makbid on this. This is not like Makar Chaim that says you have to be very careful, as well as the Shom Magin Sha'ol and Rav Eliyash have to be say they kind of have to be careful for chatzitzas when they're washing. But from this Mishnah Berurah that he says, what are you makbid on? You're makbid on a kli, you're makbid on someone else pouring it, you're makbid that the color of the water didn't change, you're makbid that is Ravis, and he doesn't mention anything about chatzitza. Sounds like the Dirshu over here is being medayik this. I don't know if it's coming, but again, the Chashva Yidin of Dirshu, that you don't have to worry about the chatzitzas. Now, regarding washing them and all these different dinim, same din as Tilas Deim for a Suda. Even though Tilas Deim for a Suda, let's pause over here, and just to point out, we're gonna finish up Sivav the next year, B'siyata Dishmaya. But here we're seeing that there are leniencies for the Kohanim not to wash your hands, and you'll see often in Eretz Yisrael, you should just see it more there, because duchening is a regular occurrence. There are those that will wash their hands right before davening, and now wash it again before duchening. Some will wash it at Yishtabach, and then now wash it. And these are the reasons, because like we just saw, to pass in front of one davening shman asks you to wash your hands is not so pashit. So but on the other end, you have the din of teikef l'netilah tvarchu. You have to have right with connection, washing the hands, the duchening. So as best as possible, the Kohanim are going to be mekayim that. We'll finish the vav the next year, b'siyata dishmaya.